Alright, this was basically a shootout as expected, and as I've said many times before, that's always going to benefit the bottom feeder, because that's their only way of winning. The entire Wiz team established a rhythm out the gates by manipulating all of their screening actions, and that was consistent throughout because of Carl and a drop, so they either ate that space to get downhill, made the spray one pass away, or had their bigs eat on the pop. If it wasn't that, it was a quick run out, and even when they did miss, there were a lot of putbacks or tips, from the rock either landing in their hands, the second jump, or them crashing, so those didn't matter much. There was just a flow to their offense with everybody touching the rock, so it was no coincidence 7 out of 8 players finished in double digits, and their best stretch was the quick 14-5 run to end the third, because there was a clear momentum shift that they could have carried over into the fourth. But it got derailed quick because of the turnovers to start the quarter, and that was a consistent issue for them the entire night. Those were really what saved the Knicks from their slow start, because they were stagnant against that early zone, and those runouts got their offense going. Some of those passes were just easily telegraphed because it was right in front of them, and there were even many instances of the Wiz not matching up off a make or dead ball, so all of those added up throughout. But the biggest problem for the Wiz were the Knicks stars, and with their minutes staggering, both players got to dominate during their own stretches. Carl got a lot of post dumps, and the Wiz were trying to shade his baseline, but were always just under the rim on those tilts, so they weren't ever in a position to help at all. At that point, they should have just committed a hard double every time, and they should have done the same to Brunson, because they even tried to shade his angles, but he was having his way. He was always making the right passes whenever he saw multiple bodies, and they couldn't stop him in any SNRs, especially whenever Valanciunas was on the floor. He just kept bringing him into the action to exploit that drop to get to his spots, and that got him into a rhythm early, so by the time the third started, he didn't even need the screens when the Wiz made the adjustment to have their bigs higher. He just had to be patient to reroute or force the switch, but he was frying on all his ones regardless of the matchup, and him and Carl basically created everything in the fourth and OT. It was obvious the Wiz didn't know who to go to when the game slowed down, so they just decided on Brogdon, but he wasn't going to match the Knicks stars in a game of buckets, and they just looked lost on all of their go-ahead opportunities. That was the opposite of the other end, because besides Carl missing the potential game winner at the end of the fourth, they capitalized on their opportunities, especially Brunson, so he got his double nickel, and it was only fitting he got a new season high against a bottom feeder, because OT was basically a culmination of all of the Wiz's problems. Just watch the tape.
Brunson again in the paint, give him 50! Wow.